You're a total loser. A real man would know how to satisfy me. My wife spat as she left me for my brother. They mocked me, called me a joke, and even kissed in front of me as I signed the divorce papers. I just laughed. But what I did 2 weeks later had her at my doorstep, betrayed homeless, and begging like a dog. I never thought I'd be posting my life drama on Reddit, but here I am at 2 a.m. because I can't sleep. For context, I'm Ryan, 34, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I had a decent life with my wife, Allison. Allison, 32. We'd been married for 7 years, together for 9. We weren't rich, just had a modest 3-bedroom house. I drove a paid-off Toyota. She had a Mazda. The first red flag appeared in February when Allison started changing her phone password. We'd always known each other's passwords for convenience. Suddenly, she was turning it face down when I walked in, taking it to the bathroom with her. I didn't think much of it at first. Then came the girls' nights. Twice a week instead of once a month. She'd come home smelling like cologne. When I mentioned it, she called me controlling, even though I was the one who encouraged her to go out while I stayed home playing video games. The sex stopped around March. Whenever I initiated, she had a headache or wasn't in the mood. I didn't push it, figuring we'd work through it. What should have tipped me off was how differently she dressed when my brother Jason, 31, came over for our monthly dinners. She'd wear the top I always complimented, spend extra time on her makeup. I was actually happy. She was putting in the effort for family. Clueless, right? Jason was always the cool brother, played sports, dated pretty girls, worked in sales, and drove a BMW he could barely afford. We weren't close growing up, but got along as adults. Last month, Allison suggested a cookout for the holiday. I took the day off to prep while she ran errands, promising to be back by noon. At 11:30, I realized I needed propane and texted her but got no response. I called and it went straight to voicemail. I went to get it myself. The hardware store was near this old motel, one of those single-story places with doors opening to the parking lot. And there it was, Allison's Mazda parked next to Jason's BMW in front of room 118. I sat there staring. Part of me wanted to kick the door down, but this weird calm took over. I photographed their cars and went home to wait. Allison returned at 12:30, all smiles, with a story about running into a friend at the supermarket. I just nodded and asked for help with the coolers. The cookout started at 2 p.m. Jason arrived at 2:30, blaming traffic. I watched them carefully, avoiding eye contact, maintaining distance, but stealing glances when they thought no one was looking. I played the perfect host while internally reinterpreting 7 years of memories with this new information. After everyone left, Allison kept giving me weird looks as we cleaned up in silence. When she finally asked what was wrong, I told her I'd seen her car at the motel next to Jason's. She didn't deny it. 8 months, she admitted. 8 months while I worked overtime for her vacation, took care of her during flu season, and planned our anniversary. I told her to leave. She refused, citing her name on the mortgage. Instead, I packed a bag and went to my parents, giving vague explanations about problems. The next day, I met with a lawyer. In our state, adultery matters in divorce proceedings. I showed him the car photos and text screenshots from our shared tablet where they'd carelessly synced her phone. 2 days later, Allison wanted to meet at a coffee shop. Jason was with her, his arm around her shoulders. The diamond tennis bracelet. I never bought, glittered on her wrist. They claimed they didn't mean for this to happen, but couldn't help their feelings. Allison proposed she get the house, her car, that I helped pay for, and half our savings. I'd keep my retirement account and mutually agreed upon personal belongings. I refused. She insisted she'd contributed equally to the house. Jason tried to mediate, saying they wanted to start their life without this hanging over them. That's when Allison hissed, "You're a total loser. A real man would know how to satisfy me. Jason gives me what you never could. Just sign the papers and let us be happy." I walked out, saying I'd see them in court. 3 days later at my lawyer's office, they sat holding hands while signing the initial divorce papers. Jason kissed her temple, right in front of me and the lawyers. I laughed genuinely, catching them off guard. When Allison asked what was funny, I just said, "Not yet," and kept signing. That was 2 weeks ago. Allison moved out while I was at work. She's living in Jason's tiny apartment, which he can barely afford. They're posting couple selfies on social media with cheesy captions. Meanwhile, I've been quiet, planning and preparing. This story is just getting started. Thanks to everyone who commented on my last post. I didn't expect that kind of response. Here's the update many of you asked for. It's been a month since Allison left me for Jason. The first week was rough. Barely slept, lost my appetite, binged Ozark while ignoring friends. Classic post-breakup stuff. But on day 8, I woke up feeling lighter, like my body finally processed that I was free from someone who didn't respect me. That morning, I found Allison's old laptop in the spare room closet. She'd upgraded to a MacBook last year, but kept this as a backup. I powered it up just to check for important files before wiping it. The laptop took forever to boot classic HP, but her Chrome was still logged in. In her bookmarks was a folder labeled Wedding Ideas. The timestamps floored me. She'd been saving venues, dresses, and honeymoon destinations for 6 months while we were still married. The woman who said we couldn't afford to fix our leaking shower had bookmarked a $33,000 destination wedding package. Her Google photos showed her and Jason at fancy restaurants wearing clothes I'd never seen. One photo showed them toasting with champagne in a hotel room dated 3 days after my birthday when she claimed to be working late. In her Gmail, I found confirmation emails for credit card applications. 3 new cards in 4 months, all maxed out over $177,000 in new debt I knew nothing about. In our state, debt acquired during marriage is joint responsibility, unless proven otherwise. I called my lawyer immediately and spent that night creating a spreadsheet of her spending. Designer clothes, weekend getaways, a $900 bracelet, all while telling me we needed to budget better. The next day, my buddy Chris, who works with Jason, texted asking to meet for a beer after work. He revealed Jason had been bragging about getting my house planning renovations once the divorce was final. Chris also mentioned Jason had borrowed $2,000 from him 2 months ago, plus more from other coworkers, and was 2 months behind on his car payment. This explained a lot. Jason had always lived beyond his means, but I never realized how bad it was. Checking our mortgage documents. I confirmed what I suspected. Allison had insisted we keep finances mostly separate, but I'd put down the entire down payment from my grandfather's inheritance. I also remembered my recent raise that Allison didn't know about. I'd been directing the difference to a separate account, planning to surprise her with a vacation. The next morning, I closed our joint account, transferring my portion to my personal account. When Allison texted asking why she couldn't access it, I didn't respond. I ignored Jason's voicemail too. Instead, I emailed Allison screenshots of her secret cards, wedding bookmarks, and photos with Jason during her work late nights. When she wanted to talk, I directed her to my lawyer. That weekend, I found another bombshell, a loan agreement where Jason borrowed $155,000 2 years ago for investment opportunities. He'd made minimal payments for 6 months, then nothing. I texted him demanding a payment plan for the remaining $12,750 by Friday, or I'd pursue legal collection. When he played the family card, I reminded him the contract had no sleep with my wife exemption clause. Meanwhile, I started hitting the gym, reconnecting with friends, and cooking actual meals. Small steps forward. Through mutual friends, I heard Allison and Jason were already having problems. Bill's cramped living space, and Jason's flirting with waitresses wasn't so charming anymore. My mother-in-law, Sandra, showed up unannounced one day. She revealed Allison had asked to borrow money, claiming I was being financially abusive during the divorce, but Sandra had seen their social media posts of fancy restaurants and weekend trips and wasn't buying it. Before leaving, Sandra gave me a USB drive from Allison's old computer. It contained emails between Allison and Jason going back 18 months. The affair had started earlier than I thought. There were also messages to friends where she complained about how boring I was and how she'd settled for security. One email from Jason to Allison revealed their plan. Once this is done, we'll sell the house, pay off my debts, and start fresh. Ryan will never know how bad things really are. Yesterday, my lawyer confirmed the new evidence strongly favored me. The house would likely remain mine, and I might be protected from her secret debt. As I left his office, Allison posted on Facebook, "Sometimes the hardest choices lead to the greatest happiness," with a picture of them at some fancy restaurant. I just smiled. Tomorrow, Jason's loan comes due in full. My lawyer has prepared the collection paperwork. Allison's hidden debt is documented for the divorce proceedings, and my promotion came with stock options that just vested. They thought they were celebrating a new beginning. They had no idea they were dancing on a sinking ship. The support on my last post has been overwhelming. Here's what happened after I pulled the financial rug out from under Allison and Jason. It started with a Venmo notification while I was at the gym. Jason requesting $2,500 for emergency car repair. The audacity of this guy, I screenshotted it and continued my workout without responding. That afternoon, Jason's landlord called looking for him. He was 2 weeks late on rent and had listed me as an emergency contact. The landlord mentioned Jason had never completed the paperwork to add Allison to the lease, so she was living there unofficially. 3 days after sending the loan collection notice, I spotted them at my local coffee shop. Allison was gesturing wildly while Jason stared at his phone, jaw clenched. Their body language screamed tension. When she grabbed his arm, he yanked it away and stormed out, leaving her standing there, face flushed. I slipped out before she noticed me. Later that week, Chris texted that Jason got fired. He'd been showing up late, missing deadlines, and finally cursed out his manager after a client complaint. Security escorted him out. The next day, I received a response to my loan collection notice from a discount legal service claiming the loan was a family gift. Despite the signed contract, my lawyer filed a lien against Jason's car, his only asset. During our weekly call, my mom said Jason claimed I was trying to bankrupt him out of vindictiveness. After reviewing the loan documents, my dad acknowledged it was legitimate. They'd also declined Jason's request for money Monday. I noticed a moving truck at my neighbor Mike's house with Allison's Mazda parked behind it. Mike confirmed via text that Jason and Allison were buying his place closing next week. How were they buying the house? Jason was unemployed. Allison's credit was trashed and they had no savings. Public records showed they were getting a mortgage from a predatory lender with only 3.5% down and astronomical monthly payments. Their loan application listed Jason's income as $85,000. His old salary plus imaginary consulting work omitted Allison's credit card debt, and most concerning listed expected proceeds from the pending real estate sale of my house. They were counting on getting half my house's value. The house that was primarily in my name with my down payment, I authorized my lawyer to send a cease and desist letter to the mortgage company. The mortgage was immediately flagged for review. 3 days later, Allison showed up unannounced, eyes red hair in a messy ponytail. She screamed about me ruining everything while I calmly stated I was protecting what was legally mine. When she claimed the house was half hers, I asked about their plan to sell it for Jason's debts. Her face went pale. She hadn't known I'd seen that email. She explained Jason lost money in crypto and borrowed from friends trying to recover. When she mentioned they were losing the apartment and had nowhere to go, I felt a momentary twinge of sympathy. Then I remembered their betrayal. I told her she should have considered the consequences before planning her wedding while we were still married. Her shocked expression said everything I mentioned. Chrome saves everything, suggesting incognito mode. Next time, she slammed the door on her way out. Jason's voicemail later mixed anger and desperation, claiming I'd made my point, and to let them have this one while they were drowning. I didn't call back. At the grocery store, Allison's friend Amber told me Allison had discovered messages between Jason and some girl from his gym history repeating itself. Allison had asked to stay with Amber, who refused out of loyalty to me. The next morning, I received our divorce hearing date 3 weeks away. My lawyer called with news. Jason had agreed to a payment plan and dropped any claim to my house in exchange for not pursuing the full loan amount immediately. That evening, I found a handwritten letter from Allison in my mailbox. She'd made a terrible mistake. Jason wasn't who she thought. Nothing had worked out as promised. She'd left him and was staying at the extended stay on Riverside, asking me to call. I stared at the paper, emotions swirling. Instead of responding, I took a photo of the letter and texted it to her mother. Allison might need your help. Then I blocked Allison's number. Some bridges once burned should stay that way. This is my final update. Thanks to everyone who's followed along. Sharing this with strangers has been surprisingly therapeutic. 2 weeks passed after I blocked Allison's number. Life settled into a new normal. Worked the gym, occasional beers with friends. The divorce hearing was approaching, and I'd started looking at apartments for a fresh start. Last Saturday morning, someone pounded desperately on my front door. I checked my Ring camera to find Allison standing there, looking nothing like her usual polished self. Unwashed hair, baggy hoodie, duffel bag at her feet. I opened the door but blocked the entrance. She begged for 5 minutes, claiming she had nowhere to go. I let her in, only to avoid a neighborhood scene, making it clear her time was limited. She perched on the edge of my couch and revealed she'd left Jason after discovering he was cheating on her with multiple women. When I commented on the irony, she flushed with embarrassment. Her story unraveled quickly. Jason's non-existent job prospects, lies about money from his parents selling her car without permission for down payment, money that actually went to gambling debts. The final straw was discovering he'd taken out a loan in her name using her social security number. When I suggested reporting him for identity theft, she explained she couldn't prove she hadn't authorized it since they lived together. The police would see it as a domestic dispute. Her request was predictable, a place to stay in my spare room for a week or two. I refused immediately. She accused me of enjoying her suffering while I maintained I was simply setting boundaries, not responsible for fixing her self-created mess. As she left, she delivered a backhanded compliment. Jason had told her I was boring and easy to manipulate, but he was wrong. I was the one with a backbone. 3 hours later, Jason showed up looking even worse unshaven. Bloodshot eyes, same wrinkled polo from his Instagram post, days earlier. He demanded to know what Allison had told me, insisting she was lying and had ruined everything. He tried shifting all blame to her, maxed out cards, pressuring him about buying a house they couldn't afford, expecting a lifestyle he couldn't provide. I noted it sounded exactly like what she'd done during our marriage, which seemed to surprise him. When he asked to come inside, I refused. His friendly facade dropped as he reminded me. We were brothers, I corrected him. We were brothers, and brothers don't sleep with each other's wives. His desperation turned to anger as I refused to help. He brought up Allison's complaints about me being boring in bed and just existing instead of living. I responded that despite those complaints, she stayed for 7 years until she thought a better option came along. This pushed him over the edge. He lunged forward, but I slammed the door as he pounded on it and shouted before eventually leaving. I called the non-emergency police line to document the incident. The next day, Allison texted from a new number asking to meet. I didn't respond. She texted again about needing closure. I blocked that number too. Monday morning, she ambushed me in my work parking lot, explaining they were both homeless after Jason gambled everything away. She'd pawned her wedding ring for a motel room. When I asked whether it was my ring or the one Jason promised her, silence answered everything I reminded her about Friday's divorce hearing. She admitted she could no longer afford a lawyer and would represent herself. As I walked away, she grabbed my arm, asking what happened to the kind person I used to be. I explained I was still kind, just not to people who betrayed me. That evening, my lawyer informed me Allison had filed for emergency spousal support, claiming financial hardship. He assured me it wouldn't work given the evidence against her. At Friday's hearing, Allison sat alone in borrowed-looking clothes while I wore my best suit. The judge quickly reviewed our case and denied her support request, citing her documented misconduct in the affair. The divorce was granted with the house and retirement accounts remaining mine. Allison received her personal belongings and responsibility for her secret credit card debt. The judge advised her to pursue identity theft charges against Jason if her claims were true. Outside the courthouse, Allison approached me one last time. Her eyes were clear, her voice steady. I made the biggest mistake of my life, she said. Not just the affair I took for granted, everything we had. I nodded but said nothing. Is there any chance? She started. No. I interrupted. There isn't. She nodded slowly. I understand, for what it's worth. I'm sorry. I hope you find what you're looking for, Ryan. She said. I just said, I hope you find what you're looking for, Allison, and walked away. That was 2 months ago. I sold the house and moved to a condo downtown. I've been seeing someone new. Nothing serious yet, just coffee dates and conversations. I heard Allison moved back in with her parents and Jason left town after his car was repossessed. Sometimes I think about what might have happened if I'd been a different kind of man, the kind who lets people walk all over him, who accepts betrayal with a smile. But I'm not that man. I never was. And that's the real reason they both ended up on my doorstep, broken and desperate. They mistook kindness for weakness, stability for boring, and dignity for pride. They were wrong, okay? That's the end of this wild story. I still can't believe all of that happened. If you've ever been through anything similar or just have thoughts on this, drop a comment below. I'm curious to hear your reactions. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more crazy stories, because life is definitely never boring. Also hit that like button if you enjoyed this, and I'll catch you in the next video.